good, y'all? It's Mikey T, the movie star. I'm back with another exclusive. This news piece actually caught my eye. It's in regard to the late and great Prodigy. Major respect to P, one of the greatest of all time. And it had to do with his book that he wrote, where he detailed many stories from the industry, the hip hop industry, that we hadn't heard, that we had heard, that he fleshed out a little bit. And he actually spoke about his relationship with 50 Cent, with GUnit, because as we all know, in the later part of their career, after leaving Jive Records and releasing the American Nightmare album with Jive Records, Mobb Deep went to GUnit, and they went to Interscope, GUnit slash Interscope, to produce their album Blood Money. And after that album came out, Prodigy, continued on. We all know Prodigy as the HNIC. He continued on with his solo career, but he went to jail. And when he came home from jail, he started doing other things like writing books. He did several books. And in one of these books, he spoke about 50 Cent's relationship with GUnit. And this news story actually caught my eye. You know what I mean? Having watched all these careers play out in my existence, I really got involved in hip hop right after the passing of Pac and Big. You know what I mean? So watching a lot of these careers play out, you know what I mean? That's why I like to take an inside look at it, especially especially with Mobb Deep making their way over to GUnit Records. It was one of the most interesting things to happen in hip hop, you know what I mean, to see a hardcore, you know what I mean, a street authentic group like that go over to the, the hip hop label that was, you know what I mean, taking over the industry, GUnit. It was definitely interesting. But let's get into this joint today. Everyone that's watching, I want you to head over to Instagram. Follow me on the gram. I'm going to put the link right in the description. Everybody who follows me based on this video and drops a comment on my page, I will follow you back. Hit me with a comment. Yo, Mikey T, I mess with your content. Mikey T, I just subscribed to your channel. Anything like that, you guys drop me a comment and I will follow you guys back. I'm very good about that. I like to stay in tune with everyone watching the videos, you know what I mean, because y'all give me suggestions, and you know what I mean, I send you the videos as well to get your response to them. It's a great relationship that I've got with you all, and I want to continue that. But let's get into the exclusive today. Prodigy wrote in one of his books about 50 Cent, and he actually broke down how 50 grew fed up with GUnit. Major salute to Boxton, you know what I mean, Boxton.com. They don't mess with me yet. They don't mess with me too much yet, but you guys should, you know what I mean. Y'all mess with Hassan Campbell, you know what I mean, putting up Hassan Campbell in his nice coat. I figure y'all could do something like that for me in the future as well. But let's break this down. Let's look at the whole situation. I'm going to read this quote that was on Boxton from the book. This is what Prodigy said. 50 said, "I'm not going to do it all for you. As a matter of fact, I'm not doing any more features on any of y'all songs or videos because I'm carrying all of the weight. Y'all have to start pulling your own weight. Yo, Buck, you there? You heard what I said?" So at this point, 50 obviously was on a conference call. He was with GUnit members, probably Lloyd Banks. He was with Tony Yayo, Buck on the conference call. Obviously, Mobb Deep there. This is when GUnit really had a major roster. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking Olivia, MOP, Spider-Loc, when they had this big roster. Y'all saw the images on Vibe magazine, and you saw it play out. So anyways, 50 looked at it a certain way because when the GUnit projects got going, Beg for Mercy, who was on the hooks? Stunt 101, Popping Them Things, I Want to Get to Know Ya, all 50 Cent vehicles. You know what I'm saying? Then when we moved on to Lloyd Banks' album, it was On Fire. That was a 50 Cent assisted hook as well. So we move on to Young Buck's album, Straight Outta Cashville, Let Me In, still assisted by 50 Cent in the beginning stages. What happened in that? That was 2004. We're at the top of 2005 now when the game released the documentary, you guys. I know you're all following me because we've got some really avid GUnit fans in here. The game came out with two 50 Cent assisted singles. Olivia followed that with On the Hook of Candy Shop. You know what I'm saying? Olivia followed with the hook of Candy Shop. Then Lloyd Banks came. You know what I mean? Lloyd Banks came again with his next album called The Rotten Apple, and they had Hands Up, which was another 50 Cent assisted hook. And I think this is really where 50 just saw it really wasn't starting, it really wasn't working anymore. That was the problem with it, you guys. It really wasn't working at this point with 50 just assisting all the hooks. It really started to go into a downward spiral in 2005. Tony Yayo, So Seductive, with a 50 Cent assisted hook. That's right, you guys. This was following the massacre. Excuse me for skipping it, but this is really where it took a downward spiral. I want to say the So Seductive record was released in like August or excuse me, April or May. The album, Thoughts of a Predicate Felon, was supposed to release at the end of June. The album was pushed back to the end of August, thus ruining all the steam they created with So Seductive. That was a dope 50 hook on a kind, somewhat basic beat. You know what I mean? The beat wasn't as elaborate as How We Do. It wasn't elaborate as On Fire, and it wasn't as good as Let Me In. So that tells you right there on the list of things. Another note, my homie Ryan B really said that they, salute Ryan B, he said that they really should have started Yayo's album out with I Know You Don't Love Me. All right. But anyways, let's get back into this piece. Buck mumbled. So the last thing 50 had said was, "Yo, Buck, are you there? You heard what I said?" After he had told them all he's not going to be doing any more hooks. Buck's album, Buck the World, was probably the first GUnit album in 2007 that was released that didn't have a 50 Cent assisted hook. And we're not talking about Mobb Deep, Put 'Em in Their Place. We're talking about Mobb Deep, Have a Party. You know what I mean? A lot of records 50 did with Mobb Deep were actually out there. Out of Control remix. So Buck mumbled back through the speakerphone, "Yeah, I'm here. Don't worry, 50. I'm the cleanup man. I got hits on this album. We good." Buck referring to his second album, Buck the World. They had the, you know what I mean, with the Polo the Don Get Buck record. He had another record with Jazzy Faye, I believe, on that one as well. So they were working with some notable producers, and Buck used this term, which we'll later see that Prodigy kind of took offense to. Buck said, "I'm the cleanup man. I got hits on this album." Buck was actually referring to a song on his album, Buck the World, called The Cleanup Man. "I'm the cleanup man." All right, that was some disrespectful, cocky shit he just said, I thought to myself. This is back to Prodigy and his own thoughts. This is how he wrote his book. That was some real disrespectful, cocky shit he just said, I thought to myself. What is he trying to say? His shit is better than 50 Cent, Mobb Deep, Yayo, and Banks? Buck used the wrong choice of words as far as I'm concerned. And then 50 continued. But let's break that down for a second. You know, Prodigy is looking at what young Buck said as totally disrespectful. Buck is not there in the meeting, obviously, that Prodigy has broken down. It's 50, Mobb Deep, Yayo, and Banks in this meeting. Buck is on a conference call. Buck wasn't really saying anything wrong in my eyes there. Buck was just like, "Yo, 50, I got hits on this album. This album's going to be great." The album actually went on to sell 110,000 less albums in its first week than Straight Outta Cashville. Straight Outta Cashville did 261. Buck the World did about 150,000 first week, just to put that in perspective, you guys. So Yayo was locked up, 50 continued. Yayo was locked up and his album was on hold until he got out. He missed a lot of big promotion while he was gone, but he did what he had to do when he got home. That's in regard to Tony Yayo actually only appearing on 2 records from the Beg for Mercy album. Yayo was, you know, one of the most known rappers of the 3, obviously, in GUnit. You know what I mean? People were really looking at Yayo back when they were doing the GUnit mixtapes, all those mixtapes. And that's why even when Buck first joined GUnit, as he said many times, it's been a statement for the last 10, 15 years that people would actually get Buck confused with Tony Yayo because they were so in, you know what I mean? They were so like in tune with 50, Banks, and Yayo. Just seeing 3 guys there when they just saw 50, Banks, and Buck there, they just assumed it was Yayo. So Yayo cut in and said this: "I'm not complaining about the album sales, man. I'm good. Whatever needs to be done, I'm doing it." Tony Yayo was actually the member of GUnit that came out and sold the least. Yayo sold the least from the Beg for Mercy album to the Lloyd Banks album to the Young Buck album to the GUnit compilation album for the Get Rich or Die Trying movie. That sold more than Yayo first week. Games album sold more than Yayo first week. Yayo's album, like I said earlier on, you guys, it was set to release in June, the end of June, after So Seductive had been bubbling. But they pushed it back to the end of August, which I think ultimately ruined it and hindered his project. And they released Curious as a second single. But I really think they already had it going with So Seductive, you guys. But they wanted to take a similar route to Banks and release at the end of the summer, apparently. So Yayo cut in and said, and this is a lot of you guys who wonder about how Yayo feels about his album sales. He says, I'm not complaining about the album sales, man. I'm good. Whatever needs to be done, I'm doing it. Then 50 said, look at what P just did with his videos on the internet. He shot a video for a mixed CD song on his own. He's not waiting for me to help him. He's pushing himself, making himself hot. That's what 50 said about Prodigy, and I mentioned it earlier. When Prodigy got home, he did start doing and more focusing on his own projects, like he did HNIC 2, he did the Return of the Mac album. But this was before he went to jail. So when he got out of jail, he actually came back and he did the Mobb Deep EP. He did he did more albums on his own as well. Prodigy really was a well-crafted artist, but obviously this is before he went to jail. Prodigy and Havoc were actually college educated as well, so they really put their foot into it, and they started doing all this stuff like 50's talking about here, like producing music videos for mixtape songs. You know what I mean? So you didn't need a $150,000 budget for a video anymore. You could go out there and film a video for $1,500. You know what I mean? Prodigy really started doing this, and I wish 50 would have jumped on it a little bit more. Like, I think they really did have plans of jumping on it a little bit more, but that 3.5-year stint in prison, it really separated them, and 50 went his way, obviously, where he is now, affecting television and motion pictures, and Prodigy had to go sit down, and his career couldn't really flourish when it needed to. Then Banks came out of left field and said, what is this meeting all about? Me? Because you seem to be focused on me the most. Then 50 replied, no, it's not about you. I'm talking to everybody, but you need to start doing your promo work before you start complaining about your album sales. I want everybody in here to look under the table and tell me what you see. So this is the point. We're not going to get there just yet. When 50 says, I want everybody to look under the table and tell me what you see. Now we're going to look at it like this. Because when the album sales were mentioned, the artist with the lowest sales actually came out and said something, Tony Yayo. He said, I'm not complaining about album sales. And then 50 continued on saying, look at P. Look what P just did with his videos on the internet. He shot a video for a mixed CD song on his own. He's not waiting for me to help him. He's pushing himself. He's making himself hot. And Banks sort of took this in a way like he was talking to him. And maybe Banks actually acted on this by doing things like releasing the street video for Cake. You know what I mean? Maybe Banks actually did start to listen to the advice of 50. I mean, look what he went on to do with Joel Santana, making Beamer, Benz, or Bentley. Let's continue on, guys. 50 said, no, it's not about you. 50 said, I'm talking to everybody, but you need to start doing your promo work before you start complaining about your album sales. I want everybody in here to look under the table and tell me what they see. One more note about Banks is that his first album actually sold 440,000 units first week. That's as much as Drake's first EP. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? So Far Gone. You know what I mean? Lloyd Banks sold 440,000 units first week. His second album, that was The Hunger for More 1. His second album, Rotten Apple, only sold 150,000 first week. What was the next one after that? Hunger for More 2, 50,000 first week. You know what I mean? So that's why 50 was telling him, you got to promote yourself. You got to make yourself hot. You got to make the people care about you. All good advice, great advice. You know what I mean? Stuff that everyone that's working on the internet does to this day by being consistent. So 50 told everybody to look under the table and tell me what you see. Everybody looked under the table confused. I don't see nobody rocking GUnit sneakers, 50 said. I see Gucci, Louis, Fendi, Timberland, but I pay your endorsement check every month to wear GUnit. That was a very big thing about wearing the GUnit sneakers. You know what I'm saying? Like, Buck actually spoke on this in his interview on DJ Vlad's channel about, what am I supposed to wear the GUnit sneakers every day? If you're getting an endorsement check from somebody, like if somebody's paying me to wear their shirt, if somebody's paying me to wear their hat or wear their shoes, you're damn right I'm going to be wearing them every day. That's one of the biggest cash cows that you have right there. You got sneakers, you got music, you got clothing, you know what I mean? You got liquor. How are you going to ignore one of your major endorsements? Like, that is 100% ridiculous to me. You got your Louis, you got your Fendi, you got your Timberland, 50 Cent said. I paid your endorsement check every month to wear GUnit. 50 made that endorsement deal with Yayo, Banks, and Buck, and maybe Olivia, Prodigy wrote in his book, before Mobb Deep came around. We weren't a part of that deal, so he wasn't talking to us, Prodigy basically said. This whole thing about the GUnit sneakers did not involve Mobb Deep because it happened before they come around. So we weren't a part of that deal, so he wasn't talking on us. From now on, I'm dead in that deal, so you won't get your checks anymore, 50 said, so y'all can forget about that. And at that point, 50 actually deaded the whole GUnit sneakers deal for GUnit. He was like, yo, y'all aren't going to wear it. I'm going to find other people to actually endorse the brand. Okay, I'm promoting Buck, I'm promoting Banks, I'm promoting Yale, I'm putting them on MTV, BET, 106 and Park, every different television channel I can, and they're not even going to wear the endorsed items that they're, paid to wear. Okay, that deal's done. That's cut. The money will go somewhere else. Prodigy continued on, wow, I thought if 50 gave us that deal, I would have worn GUnit to sleep at night and in my casket. Buck mumbled over the phone once more. I got this, 50. Me and Spiderloak is going hard. I'm the cleanup man. Trust me. Then Prodigy said Buck needed to shut up and listen to what was being said. He needed to hand in a good album instead of talking all that cleanup man shit. Really crazy words from Prodigy's book right there, you guys. Man, Prodigy was definitely an OG. Prodigy definitely had great insight and great, advice to offer through giving these books out, you know what I mean? So I'm really glad he was able to do that and to really share his genius. You just hear his perspective on things about the fact that he would have wore the GUnit brand to sleep if that was a brand that he was endorsed with. You got to look at it like that. Like, Mobb Deep was a real brand in the game, and if they were to get a deal with Reebok, or if they were to get a deal with Puma, or if they were to get a deal with 50 and GUnit, or Diddy and Sean John, they would respect that deal to the fullest. And that's something I respect about, some of the OGs of rap. They really know how to carry and conduct themselves rather than just getting a check and running with it. And that's what some of the young guys will do this day and age. They get the check, they run, they don't pick up the phone, they don't call, they don't wear the clothes. What's going on this day and age, man? I'm glad I could offer some insight into this and actually come about this article and read this joint. You know what I mean? Prodigy was definitely one of the best hip-hop authors, I would have to say. I've read a number of books, and I look forward to reading some more of his stuff. I appreciate everybody tuning in today for this episode, for this exclusive. We're going to get more episodes like this. Just drop a comment and let me know if you want more stuff like this, guys. Follow me on Instagram if you want a follow back, and if you want to stay in tune with my channel. Remember, drop a comment if you want to see more content like this, you guys. It's Mikey T _ the movie star on Instagram. Everybody who follows me based on this video, I will follow you guys back. Major respect to everybody, and Happy New Year 2021. It's lit.